Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Bennett.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
Ortega.
Here.
Parker. Rettman.
Yes, ma'am.
Reinhardt.
Here. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tony? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's twice this morning.
Yes. What?
I told her that's twice for both of us.
Commissioner Bennett and I were at a meeting this morning.
Oh.
We had already
Pledged.
Yep. We can do it anytime soon. We feel like.
Can we do it again, Jan?
I think she was probably doing it on the way up, right? And you were doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
I was doing it on my way.
Oh, yeah.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Rettman.
Yes, ma'am.
Bennett.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye. Minutes from July 26th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ortega.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Rettman.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye. Administrative agenda. Commissioner Ortega.
Madam Chair, I move item 10.1 and 10.2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Rettman.
Yes.
Bennett.
Aye.
Carter.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye. I should note that obviously this is one of the lightest agendas we've had, but we do have a very full day ahead of us, and actually a few of us have been at meetings already this morning because we do have a workshop and we have budget hearings, and what I refer to as National Night Out, I guess, has been renamed Night to Unite.
Night to unite.
Tonight as well.
No.
So, but
In my
we do
world, it's still national.
You didn't get the memo?
No, I didn't.
well, it's still
She's a little behind in her reading today.
but we do have still a number of updates to do, so let's move on to the legislative update, and we've got quite a bit. The legislative update was provided yesterday.
Nobody does.
I did not get it.
It's electronically sent.
Honey, have you ever met my computer?
No, and I don't want
Open
to.
thing.
I think Claudia is prepared
It
with
was
some paper.
Yeah, and it was provided this morning. I picked it up this morning.
That was in my box this morning.
Well, it wasn't there, you know,
wasn't
when
there.
at 7. It wasn't. No, it wasn't there at 7, and I had
We're getting a copy of it.
If you,
Nothing's
Claudia,
changed since
if you came in at
it's
7, we owe you overtime.
I'm sorry.
If you came in at 7, we'd have to pay you overtime.
Right. Claudia only works very strict hours.
Well, I was, but I had a meeting too.
I have to tell you that Nick and Claudia, no matter what time of day or night, it seemed during session and special session, and even over the weekends as we were trying to figure out what some of these things were always available, and because quite frankly they had to be. So I think we appreciate that. So we will turn it over to you.
Madam Chair and members, I'll walk you through this a little bit. We've got a cover memo that Claudia put together and that was sent to you, and some of you are probably seeing it for the first time maybe, but we just wanted to give you a little bit of what we're going to be looking at through the rest of this summer, you know, for next year's session. We'll be working with the Chair and Vice Chair of the Legislative Committee and each of the departments we're going to meet with individually, get an idea of what they're looking at if they have any issues for next session, because it'll be primarily a bonding year next year, and there will be a few policy cleanup things, but for the most part, I expect it'll still be contentious between the governor and the two bodies. I don't expect a lot to happen, but if they can agree on a bonding bill, which they should be able to because it's a job creator, as you all know, and it is necessary because, excuse me, this last session was only $500 million in bonding, so there's a great need out there for another bonding bill. But after we meet with the departments, we plan on meeting with each of you individually. We'll be making appointments and sharing what the departments shared with us, what their concerns are and what they'd like to see happen, and anything that you might bring to our attention also. And then...
Just a moment.
Excuse
Commissioner
me.
Bennett has a comment on that?
I was just going to make a comment. This morning's news said that the state lost its AAA bond rating, went down because of how they ended the session with their financing methods. We may want to find out how that affects us, if it does at all.
Madam Chair, there's word out that the feds may affect us more than the state right now in our bond rating. They're looking at how all government units are handling their finances, and so they're looking at us in Hennepin, I know.
But that was tied to the debt ceiling, so Commissioner Ortega, do you want...
I was going to say Rich is in the audience. He could give us, I
Could you
think,
give us an update on that?
he could give us a better assessment. No offense, Nick, but your job is to be at the Capitol.
I needed a...
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Rich Cope, Investment Debt Manager. You are correct. Lee Merkins, the CFO of Ramsey County, obviously, did send a memo out to everybody stating that Moody's was taking a look at the Fed's situation. If the actual default would have happened, that would have been obviously not very good for anybody. It would have affected a lot of governments, Ramsey County and others. The Moody's is looking at just all AAA rated municipalities. I think it's 162 counties that are included, us being one, Hennepin County, Olmsted County, St. Louis County. What they are going to do is they will look at each credit individually. So after our recent bond issue, our credit is very, very strong. I don't anticipate any changes to what may happen to us. Obviously, a review is not something that anybody wants to go through. I almost look at it like a normal audit. The county is audited every year. This doesn't happen a lot, but they're really they're looking at connections of revenue streams that municipalities might be getting from the feds. We obviously get revenue streams, but the revenue stream we use for our debt is very, very small. It's that Build America bond revenue stream, which is very strong and what we use to help pay off the debt. So it's like I say, I'm not really concerned about it. We'll be there whenever they call us to help through the process if that's what it takes. But.
And so that's from the federal side, but from the state side, the fact that they have been downgraded, is that also going to enter into this review? I would assume it would.
I would assume so as well. They look a lot at economics. So the economic stature of the state, that's a big piece of what they look at too. So that will definitely that will be a piece of it, I imagine. But this review specifically was because of the federal issue. As we know, the House did pass their stuff last night. The Senate is going to be meeting today, I believe, at mid-afternoon, and I haven't heard of any issues where they would not pass it. So it looks like a deal is in place. I don't think that will stop the review by Moody's. I think they're still going to be doing the review. I have not heard that, but I would assume they're going to still go through that process.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett and
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Carter.
Rich, I think what I'm more speaking to is the state was downgraded after reviewing exactly what you said, looking at how they financed that package at the end. Yep. Is that going to, and what I was concerned with Nick and Claudia with, and maybe your advice, is there anything that would affect the state then that would indirectly affect us as far as money coming our way because they don't have a AAA to a AA?
It will affect the state only in the future when they try to borrow funds. Their rate that they will get will be not as good as it is now, 5 to 10 basis points maybe. The reason for their downgrade, I think, was obviously because of their whole budget situation and how dysfunctional that was.
They stated because of the way they financed it and put it off into the future.
Structurally unsound
yeah,
budget.
Exactly.
Like that, yeah.
Their quote was structurally unsound budget.
Structurally unsound, you're right.
To me, what that means is it's a good lesson for municipalities on how they manage their finances in the future and not
to do it.
get into that situation, obviously, because that is a red flag for the rating agencies. So, but to answer your question, no, I do not think their downgrade will affect us in anything that they're looking at for us.
Julie and Commissioner Carter, or did you?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I do want to point out, however, that the state and the federal fiscal situation is a factor, as are the local and regional economic environment that we're operating in. It is a factor that is used by credit rating agencies. Whether it'll have a direct impact on us immediately, I would agree with Rich that that is probably unlikely. But we do always need to be aware how interconnected we are, and that we can have a structurally balanced budget, we can have the top financial management, and if our economic environment is very, very poor, that will still affect our rating, even though there's not a direct control that we have over that environment. So it is a factor that's considered in the rating.
Okay. Commissioner Carter. Okay.
I was really just going to ask the question. Someone had said that the federal budget circumstance might affect us more than the state, and the discussion has just brought out the fact that we really don't know exactly how it is going to affect us, and I was going to ask the question, why the federal more than the state, since we're closer, but I think that this whole discussion is something we'll be continuing for quite some time.
Nick, you had a comment on this too?
Well, excuse me, I just wanted to mention that part of the reason that the state's going to, is being looked at is because the 2014-2015 budget year, there's going to be a projected deficit already of $1.9 billion. They're going in with that already because what they did this last time was just one-time money with the tobacco bonds and the shift from schools. So they have to structurally fix their problem, or they're going to have deficits every biennium on out if they keep trying to do the way they're doing.
Well, and that was pretty clear that all they did was kick it down the road. And obviously, when you have something, when you have a major rating agency saying that what you did was structurally unsound, I think that when you look at it, that's exactly what happened there. But we have a budget now. Hopefully we'll have final action on the federal debt ceiling, and that will impact us, but hopefully will not change our bond rating with both bonding agencies.
Correct. Madam Chair, to my knowledge, I don't believe that Standards & Poor's is looking at a review at all. My understanding was it's just Moody's at this time. Okay. So that's good news.
Okay. If we could move on then.
Okay, and Madam Chair, just what I was talking about, developing our legislative package, we hope to have something to you in November for your preliminary approval, and then final approval sometime in December. Session starts either towards the end of January or beginning of February next year, so there's almost a whole month next year. It's a short session too. So moving on, getting right into what happened to Ramsey County in the area of taxes. Oh.
May I just ask a question? Is when we're going to go through your section, and this section's different, are we going to see exactly what it did to Ramsey County on this, so it can
Yes,
be...
Madam Chair, the longer legal size piece.
But the things you have on this one isn't on this one.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
So,
some of it is.
I mean, it would be...
And I'm going to cross-reference as I go, and I'll tell you where I'm at.
But my problem is if we want to use these to start talking to folks, we need to be consistent in being able to hand a chart so this one has those things lined up. This one you have to read, but it doesn't really identify what it was in county dollars. This one. So that's just I'm just saying if we need it to use it, or if we're just needing it for ourselves, I want to be able to use it.
And if I could, one of the things that we asked, and I know that Commissioner Parker obviously was part of this as chair of the legislative committee, was get us something that we can get our arms around to begin with, and there will be many iterations of this, and depending on who the audience is, to try to get the information that they need in the most succinct way possible. But this was, and Commissioner Parker, if you want to chime in, please do so, but we were really trying to just get the information to us as quickly and succinctly as possible. This is the jumping off point, I guess, is what I was trying to say, as far as providing input and communicating with people.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner Rettman, also, this is kind of the big statewide picture and all of the policy stuff. This is mostly, almost entirely,
Health and Human Services.
things that impact Ramsey County directly. So Ramsey County, Inc., as we refer to it sometimes. So it's directly tied to our budget. There are other things that are mentioned in here, for example, something like child care, when they took some of the funding that would have gone to parents to subsidize their child care. That's not going to be on this table. What's on this table is what we get to administer the program. So this is like more directly to our budget. I do understand, and it's real, it's kind of like which way do we go as far as putting all of it in one piece. I have another iteration of this that goes through it all by bill. And by committee, the different budget areas. And I was going to update that one, and I thought, then I've got 3 pieces instead of 2. So it's a challenge trying to figure out how to take things that, and figure out how to categorize them. But I can appreciate that it's not, it doesn't always mesh real well. And if it's something that you want to hand to someone to give them a picture, and I will keep that in mind and take a look at this and see if there isn't a way for me to marry these 2 more completely.
And again, I'm assuming you'll be working with the chair and vice chair to make sure that whatever we need to take out to our community, that is available to us.
And Madam Chair, in the legal size piece that's a Ramsey County, the shaded is how it affects Ramsey County. So you can see straight on, right next to the column is statewide, but Ramsey County, you can see the shaded part. In the area of taxes, county program aid was cut the same by the governor and the legislature in the early bill that was vetoed. And in the final bill, Ramsey County ended up with a cut of $4 million per year for 2012 and 2013. Now it's a permanent ceiling, is I believe about $12 million, just over $12 million Ramsey County is projected to get each year in county program aid. Also, market value credit, homestead credit was cut by $5.9 million.
Commissioner Ortega.
So just one thing, Nick. So $4 million was our cut in the final special session.
Yes.
$4 million per year.
$4 million per year, $8 million total for the biennium. And I know I'm not in any way complaining about the form. I guess what I would like to know, probably for the same reasons that Janice. So what does $4 million mean? What is left? You know.
Well, we were unallotted the same amount before.
Does it zero? Does it bring it down to 10? Well, I'm
So
sorry.
what, not just the cut, but what is the base, the amount? That
What is the actual amount?
The base was $16 million for us before, and it was unallotted down to $12 million before the previous year. Right. So it wasn't something that we hadn't unexpected.
No, yeah, I get it. But I know I'm not going to be as familiar with all of them as we go down. Yeah.
Mr. Parker?
Madam Chair, and I think Julie can help. We, in our budgeting process, we had anticipated losing all of it. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I think budgeting process, I think the other piece of information besides not knowing what percentage of the base is being cut here, you also don't know what we assumed in the county budget. In particular, in county program aid, we estimated that we would receive $12 million, and we are receiving $12 million. So on that one, we hit the target. But at each department meeting, the departments will come prepared to tell you what they assumed in their budget as the estimated revenue, and then what the final amount that was appropriated is. Okay.
And although it's not going to be perfect by any means, it's my understanding that during the budget process, as our tradition, we took a conservative approach, and that we're pretty close on most of the things. So I think that as we go through that budget process and through this legislative update, we'll be able to see where we were at. But wherever possible, or wherever throughout the budget when it came to state money, that we took a very conservative approach. Correct, Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, this $4 million comes out of that conservative approach, not out of that lump sum. Right?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, our preliminary review of the final budget compared to what we assumed in the county manager's proposed budget is that we are fairly close in most areas in our estimates to what the final was.
And that's the 6% that you used, or the percentage that you used to have each department cut is in this number.
In the proposed budget.
In the proposed
right.
budget.
Proposed budget.
Yes. Commissioner Carter.
On the market value homestead credit, since those dollars are collected during the year, I am assuming that this reduction of $5.9 million, which won't be collected, would impact the next year and not start in 2012. Is that correct?
No, it starts in 2012.
It's eliminated
And the
as
reason
of
I'm
2013, which would be payable 2012, correct?
payable 2012. Okay. All right. Thank you. I was just asking that because I know that as we're collecting it, it applies to the next year. But
Well, if we could have a little more explanation here, because it's not as simple as collecting it.
Right.
It's what the state isn't paying to individual taxpayers.
Right.
Commissioner McDonough, and then we have a couple other folks.
First off, and, you know, the conversation about the information, I actually think this is done as about as good as you can do with the complexity of all the areas.
Yeah.
I like this piece this is a budget piece for us. This is actual that we need. This piece does highlight all the other things that we care about or have impact to citizens in our community that, you know, and may have a budget impact on us because cuts here change demand for service over here that we're paying for. So I think we're getting to a good spot that's really clear. I really like this. But since we moved on to market value credit, that is one area where it's not consistent because in this one, your narrative says that it's eliminated in 2012. In this one, it says it's eliminated in 2013. And what we got from Chris is it's gone right now. It's done. And this is one of those cuts that it's really directly to the property taxpayer. Because the dollar amount we still collect will be the same. It's just we're getting it all from the property taxpayer rather than some from the state and some from the property taxpayer. But my understanding is it's gone right now and not 2013.
Yes, okay. Heather, if you could walk us through this, because this is something that I hope everyone that's listening or streaming this right now, this is probably the single most important thing that the state legislature did, because they're going to get their property tax bills, and where it used to say homestead credit, there will not be any. Correct. Period. And so we need to figure out how to really get this message out. Commissioner Rettman, and then if we could have...
And Madam Chair, just going with flow. Is 10 million means nothing when it's countywide. What does it mean to meet?
Yes.
Not me, but
You.
your neighbors.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so if you could sort of give a, you know, if it's in this realm, what it is to you, because 10 million means nothing. You know, because it's like, well, it's all coming out of Jan. It's not coming out of me.
This does not impact our budget.
That's right.
It impacts our individual home budget.
Correct.
Because this is a direct thing from the state. We don't get more money. They're just not providing that property tax relief, which has been a cornerstone for as long as I can remember, anyhow.
Chair Reinhardt, Commissioners, since the 1970s when the property tax was restructured in Minnesota under the Minnesota Miracle, you will recall Wendy Anderson was governor at the time, the tax structure was changed so that property taxpayers paid a lower overall rate, but the tax was bought down by the market value homestead credit by the state of Minnesota. And that appeared on your truth and taxation statement as a credit. That's the best way to describe it. And
that was the one delivered in March, right?
Delivered in March. The TNT?
Yeah.
No, it would come out in November, I believe.
Last November.
Yeah. And so the way that the market value homestead credit appeared was a credit on your truth and taxation statement, but the county does not see revenue from that. It is a way that the state buys down your property tax burden as a property tax payer. And so what the state did in the special session was they eliminated the market value homestead credit entirely for 2011 and going forward. So property taxpayers will not see a credit on their TNT in the future. And the impact of that will vary by the value of the property. To Commissioner Rettman's question, we are right now trying to assess what that impact will be, and I want to walk you just briefly through what we're doing to try and A, explain this to property taxpayers, and B, try to evaluate the impact on property taxpayers. So first of all, we have convened an internal working group to look at this issue, try to determine what the impacts are on individual property owners in the county. And secondly, we will be meeting with the GIPTAC group, which Commissioner Rettman will be chairing this year. That group will meet, the staff group will meet at the end of August, and we will discuss how we're going to, as 3 separate taxing jurisdictions, discuss this with our property taxpayers who will be impacted by this change. And so we hope to have some more information to you as that discussion progresses both internally and with the school district and the city of St. Paul.
Thank you. Now, was there some part of another mechanism put in place? And could you walk us through that as well?
Another mechanism.
It's called the homestead market value exclusion.
Yeah, the exclusion.
And can you tell us a little bit about that? And
I can just give you a 1,000-foot level on how this works. By eliminating the homestead value credit, the homeowner's taxes are going to go up even if you had a zero. If all 3 jurisdictions had a 0 increase in your levy, their taxes would go up because they weren't being bought down by the state anymore. So what this homestead value exclusion did, it put in a mechanism in the money that they're not going to get is going to get distributed differently. Businesses, commercial industrial businesses are now included in that formula where it would have only hit homeowners. So the homeowner won't get hit as badly as they would have by eliminating this market value homestead credit. But now all taxpayers are going to get hit by it, both businesses and residential. It's going to be spread over everybody. So that's the 1,000-foot level how they did it. It's going to vary a lot. It's very complicated.
what does the exclusion mean to, as a homeowner taxpayer? The homestead credit is gone.
Right.
And taxes aren't going up. They're just not being bought down.
Exactly. They're not being bought down the same way either because now see, businesses weren't getting this buy down before. Just homeowners were. now it's being spread on businesses as well, so...
But it's the
But if
10
it's gone, that's where we need to, okay,
Right, it's
that is
gone, but they
that
put in a
is-
formula how it gets spread.
What?
Madam Chair?
Okay, yes, I've got Ortega and actually everybody.
Madam Chair, I've been asking a lot of questions in the last couple of days, and just to try and get this understanding, what the exclusion basically does is shift the taxes onto commercial, industrial, okay, and to renters, especially in, the bigger complexes. So if you're a condo owner, you're a homeowner, that exclusion tends to favor you. Doesn't mean your taxes aren't going to go up, but won't go up as high, because they haven't been brought down. And there'll be a shift back to the commercial business and to renters, okay, or to apartment complex that rent rather than our owners. That is what the exclusion does. That'll start kicking in next year, 2012 being the biggest hit, and then in 2013 it sort of mellows out. What it is, it's a reversal of everything that Jesse Ventura did when we had the shift going the other way. So, I mean, it doesn't resolve anything. It's just playing around with the tax structure, but it is a shift. It is a shift onto commercial, business, and rentals. That's the bottom line. That's the main focus of it. It's more negative to them, and then to the rest of us homeowners, our taxes, like you stated, they're not being brought down. But they're also not being added onto as heavily as the commercial business and the rental complexes.
Commissioner McDonough.
So if we go back to Chris's slide that showed the 149 valued property, 129, 232 was the credit that was no longer being done. In the end, the property taxpayer doesn't necessarily pay the full 32 that's gone away. The neighborhood grocery store that never had the credit will pay part of that credit.
That's right. Exactly.
There'll be a shift so there'll be a bigger pool of people paying the loss of that credit. So it's not all just on the homeowner property tax. There will be the shift to the businesses. So
And your
I think that's about as clear as it can get. The 232 is gone from the credit from that homeowner, but they don't necessarily have the full impact because businesses will share in that impact.
That's exactly right.
And that's what I was trying to get at. The net is that credit is totally gone. There's a new formula in place, and the full hit, because they're playing around with the market value, which is not the real market value. You're not paying taxes on the full market value. Therefore, if it was 232, it's some portion less than that.
Correct.
So
it's
the state is not giving us any more money. It's rejiggering how our taxes are distributed.
Every taxpayer is going to pay more. It's
How much more?
Yeah, how much more? In the commercial sector, you're going to pay more because you didn't have it before. In the residential sector, it will hit you, and it'll hit, I would think, pretty big time, but not the full hit.
And all those increases occur before any local government does anything.
Right. And those businesses are going to pay, and some renters and higher price homes are going to pay the difference to those that get less of a hit, so to speak. So it's a shift among taxpayers is what it is.
It's not,
and it's
on this point, it's
not
not the typical kind of shift that we talk about, which is kind of confusing because usually we're talking about a shift of a cost from the state to the county or from someone to someone else. And in this case, it's a lifting of a credit that used to be bought by the state and an application of the cost for that credit to property owners and renters, as you say. So it's not that traditional shift we talk about. It's a smoke and mirror shift.
It will be very, very confusing. Because what people are, and we know that Commissioner McDonough's mother is going to call him.
Yep.
Because she's going to see.
Jim told me he was going to call all of us.
He's sharing.
That's good.
What's going to happen is you get that statement where you used to have the market value, the homestead credit, that will not be there. It's going to show the value of your home. Then it's going to have this exclusion, which will lower that market value as far as, and that's what you'll pay taxes on. As an apparition, but it's a permanent one. And so it's going to look to the average taxpayer, because the state has eliminated that credit. It will show us this is the market value. This is what your home is worth for tax purposes, which is going to be less, and your taxes are going up because of it not being bought down. That's about as clear as mud. Okay, Commissioner Bennett, and then Commissioner Rettman, and then we'll let Heather.
My question, in the box on the left, you say 10 million countywide, but we only show 5.9 in the graph. What's the difference?
Julie wants to speak to that.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I think this whole box we need to rework. If you recall, Chris Samuel's preliminary and very preliminary estimates about how this will affect folks is that in Ramsey County, for all the taxing jurisdictions, that our taxpayers will feel a $23 million increase in their property taxes, regardless of the taxing jurisdiction. In other words, the state reduction of the credit on all of our property taxes is a total of $23 million. We were attempting, I believe, here to focus this on, as Claudia said, Ramsey County, Inc. But I think our taxpayers are much more concerned about what does their bottom line look like. Right. And the state has reduced the total credit approximately $23 million.
To all levels of government. City.
The total credit.
Right.
And each level.
What it is, it's a loss of money that has helped change the market value and reduce your market value. Your market value will change again, which is very complicated to most people. Can't understand how you get to market value anyhow. So this is going to be very difficult to explain to them, other than probably to say that the state is no longer crediting you with X number of dollars, which you will now have to pay. It was just used for homes previously. Now it will be, you will use in that base both business and homes. So everybody will be getting a chunk of it that they will have to pick up, and no increases will have to have been given, no spending increases by any of the government entities will affect it.
And the fact that
can change it. It's just because the state's no longer crediting you with that much money.
And again, this is probably, when you talk about the individual impact of what that special session did, having that homestead credit be gone is the single most important thing to the average taxpayer.
And because everybody...
And no one seems to have gotten that message out. They weren't talking about that at the state legislature and what they just did. And that's one of the things that we talked about in the workshop, that we need to get that message out, because this is not the county, it's not the city, it's not the school boards. This is directly on the backs of our state legislators.
Madam Chair, then if you're listening to what Julie said, $23 million on their tax bill, which is what they always look at, you're right, the bottom number. That's roughly 2.4 into that, so that...
11.
Is that what it figures out to?
11 levy points are taken.
10%.
A 10% increase if you were to say it was across the board, but it's not across the board because you've added the business people that are now going to receive a credit.
More.
They're going to pay more, I'm sorry.
And the residential will be a little less.
And each person's tax bills are different. And that's, I'm sure, where the complications. How do you tell somebody it's going to go up a certain percentage, because it's not going to be necessarily the same percentage on everybody?
It won't be. And I think they're counting on the fact that the tax bill comes from, the property tax bill comes from the county, and that no one's going to notice what they did. Well, we're going to make...
And this is a good exercise into telling people that it is the legislature that sets the rules and regulations, how property taxes are levied and how market rates are done. Because a lot of people think we totally do it. We do the mechanics based upon their plan.
Their rules and regulations.
The rules and regulations.
Commissioner Rettman and then Commissioner Carter.
Madam Chair, I want to echo one of the things that Julie just stated was this box gives the illusion that part of the money was ours, you know, and it shows it as a reduction. So that change in that box, and see, that's where, you know, these things become wickedly wonderful and wickedly wicked, you know, because they can give you sort of, you know, illusions that aren't really there. And that's what I was trying to get at is some of the times, you know, we get so close to it that we have to back up to make sure that we're sort of saying what we really meant to say on this. So if that's going to be redone, because I just think it's what it does to the individual, be them business or citizen, family or homeowner or renter, whatever. That's what we need to show. Yes, we have to show what it also means in our slenderization of the budget, but we also have to show that. And I think as we merge these all together, we just need to do a better job of that. So I think you can on that.
Commissioner Carter and then Commissioner Bennett.
That really was the point, but I just wanted to say that although this isn't money that comes out of Ramsey County's budget, because it is still being paid by the property taxpayers, it really does illustrate the impact of the budget resolution this year, and it also illustrates that sound budgeting is really about planning for the future. You know, not giving all the money back in one year when there appears to be an overage and then finding a hole in the bucket in many, many succeeding years, such as we are finding right now. So what the state has done in resolving this budget issue this year will hit us and hurt us as taxpayers in our pockets. It is not true that taxes were not increased. This is clearly an increase because of the fact that these taxes were brought down in the past, and now that's been totally lifted. The hole in the bucket results in the taxpayer paying. And I just wanted to note that because I know that we are trying very, very hard here, although we have the impact of many, many reductions, to stabilize our process, to look into the future, and to make it so that our taxpayers, at least to the extent that we have control, are not going to have to take the kind of multiple hits that we're seeing here as a result of the state's budget action.
Commissioner Bennett.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think this is a good place to also look at the other side of the ledger, which is we deliver the services for the state. And this is an example, while people will say this is, the state will say this is a way to hold governments responsible for what is spent, it doesn't give us a way to handle the mandates that we aren't paid for. And this was maybe money that ended up in the pot that we got used to pay some of those mandates that will no longer be there. Well, it'll be there because we're going to have to charge the property taxpayers when it doesn't belong there on the property taxpayers. It should have been paid by the state in the first place.
It's the double and triple whammy that we're feeling right now, and you know, again, this kind of goes full circle to the whole the structurally unsound budget that the state has put together, the downgrade to the from the AAA bond rating, and the fact that we still have it. So we will continue to do our budgets in a structurally sound way, and muddle through this, but this is going to be very confusing to taxpayers. Commissioner Parker.
Madam Chair, I know that we have a workshop that is going to, that we want to leave time for, and we've kind of barely scratched the surface of this. But, you know, one thing that I just was, we don't have a total listed on this, but as I was just kind of running through these, it looks like, you know, we've got just for the year 2012 about $4 million in county program aid, this huge market value homestead credit, and then another maybe $8 million in cuts, it looks like.
More than that.
Well,
Adult mental health alone is 14.
37 for the
what?
biennium.
14 million?
Right here.
Where?
Right here.
Nick or Claudia, could you give us a ballpark as far as the total?
You know, Claudia?
And these would be in the cuts. I mean, the market value homestead credit is not a cut
That's right.
to us. It is taxpayers and the date, and that will be made clear. In fact, I think we should probably pull this off of this particular chart and put it at the end, because it's not to Ramsey County, it's to our taxpayers. And when we talk about Ramsey County, Inc., yeah, this one doesn't belong there. So can you give us a ballpark?
It's about 9 or 10, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And for the first year?
For the first year, and then for the second? Is it about the same?
It's likely the same.
I thought it was a total of 37, Julie. Wasn't it a total of 37 over the biennium? That was with...
I thought it was 23 million and then 14 for, what was the 14 for?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I think the 37 million that you're talking about is the budget gap that I identified a week ago, which included both the cost side and the revenue side. And we identified about $14 million as both federal and state and other revenue cuts. And I believe that's for the...
I thought that was per year.
That's per year. That's what I was saying.
There he is.
Yes, I thought when Madam said it.
Is it per year?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 14 million is per year.
And Madam Chair, if this is an assessment of the major cuts, there's a million other little cuts that add up too. And just looking at this quickly, I think it is closer to 11 or 12, and then there's a lot of other, you know, the...
So that's how we get to the 14 million. Okay. Are there any other things, Commissioner Parker, that or others would like to highlight?
Madam Chair, as you said earlier, I think that the staff is still sorting through the details and still getting information from the state about how some of the states are going to be allocated statewide, but I don't know, do you have anything else that you...
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, as complicated as this issue is, and all of you understand taxes pretty well, and it takes a while for, it's not a soundbite that we can just give and say, here's what happened, and we have to somehow synthesize that so that at the Truth in Taxation hearing we're able to explain to people what really happened, and so that's why we're going to be meeting on this issue and try to, you know,
Commissioner Bennett?
Nick, have we got a handle on any programs that were totally cut that we can cut, or parts of programs that the state has cut that would save us part of that 12 million that we could cut?
They gave us the next three things. There's a 10% reduction in maintenance of effort, but I don't know that, you know, it doesn't really help us because we're way above our maintenance of effort on these issues anyway. I can't point to any one program that was wiped out that we could say is a total savings to us. There really isn't.
Something we're not mandated to do and that we were mandated before?
We're pecked to death by ducks here. You know, it's little nibbles. So.
Well, and I think, you know, just in looking at this so that people that don't have this in front of them, I mean, the cuts, yeah, I mean, there's many, and some of them are much larger than others. Children and Community Services Act, Minnesota Family Investment Program, Chemical Dependency Treatment, Adult Mental Health Integrated Fund, Children's Mental Health Screening Grants, Emergency General Assistance, I think it's important that people, basic sliding fee was reduced for
Madam Chair?
childcare.
Okay, and I think it's interesting, too, that I think the only increase on this whole list is the adoption and relative custody assistance grants, which went up $366,000, which is good, but it's just sort of interesting that it's such an anomaly that one got an increase and everything else was cut.
And yes, child support, which obviously has an impact on us. There are many, many things in here. Commissioner Rettman, if you could, and maybe you're going to talk about this, but the State Health Improvement Program grant.
I have three little quickie ones because I do concur with that we need to spend a lot of quality time on the workshop. On the SHIP, you've got a plus 1.5. Now, is that really a 1.5, or is it what we were getting? Because I believe it's a little bit inaccurate compared to what we had been getting. So again, you know, is
1.5 or more.
Huh?
Madam Chair, the SHIP program was previous funding was to end this year. And the $15 million that was allotted is all of the funding that is available. There was no base that continued forward. So there was a $20 million before, and that funding ran out. So the $15 million is a one-time allocation, and we looked at this by formula. We took the formula based on what we were receiving before as a percentage. That's how we figured most of these, and then we cross-checked them with the department people and their budgets and what they expected. We cross-checked them with things from some of the state departments, from some of the other organizations to see if we were accurate, and that's where we came up with the 1.5
So you're thinking instead of how much did we get in the previous biennium? How much?
Hello? 20, it was statewide, it was $20 million, and we got 10% of that.
Talking about
$2 million.
So about $2 million.
So we had $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we're expecting 1.5 million.
And you're saying that it's 1.5 based on the formula, but yesterday we heard that that was not necessarily the case because they have to make a determination on where it's going to go, and the formula may or may not exist.
Right.
And so, again, you know, we've got
our best guesstimate
on. And so this is your, but not something that we have been blessed from anyone on high to have any confidence in that number.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Rettman, I would say they're our best guess. Some of them are the formulas. The CCSA is another one that's like that, the Children and Community Services Act. It gets renamed, and they're going to be changing the formula, but we don't know what the new formula is a phase-in, and so this number is an estimate based on past history.
But I think that's where, at least if you're sort of not knowing, you know, it gives the illusion that that's going to be there.
Okay.
And we heard just the opposite yesterday of we don't know what the formula is.
The answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And we should say that.
I mean, yesterday, they probably shouldn't have said what they said yesterday, because there's absolutely no reason for us to believe that or this.
I don't know what they're going to do.
It's cut significantly, and will
some, not as significantly as what we had been expecting earlier. Earlier, we thought it was going to be wiped out.
700,000.
But it's one time.
It's one time, but it does stay there until it's expended, so the allocations can be spread out over the 2 years, and I did put on here funding available until expended, but I booked it in 12 because that's when the money becomes available. I didn't know how else, whether I should split it half and half, or, you know, because I just put it in one chunk. The other I just wasn't sure what to do with that, but that $15 million, it is difficult to know. The other thing is, to add on top of this, and the confusion, even though this is mostly Ramsey County, Inc., this money doesn't come into our budget and stay. It's passed through and lands up going out to some of the providers in the community and the programs in the community, so it's not something that stays internal.
Part of it does,
Part of it.
because it paid some of the staff.
Some of the, yeah, exactly. So, and I don't know what that breakout is, so to put all of those facts in here, I'd be doing a budget spreadsheet, and I can't do that.
Well,
And this isn't a budget.
just switching gears real quick, and I'm hesitant to ask this, but I'm going to do it anyway. When there was the discussion on transportation and and it said Met Council will receive $15.2 million from CTIP, what if they get cranky, CTIP board gets cranky and says, no way?
You don't get anything from CTIP currently.
No,
Met Council, are you talking about Met Council?
It says Met Council on your thing, Met Council will receive 15.2 one time from County Transit, CTIB, to backfill transit operations. If CTIB says no, because after all, it was the voters and this body who voted it, if they say no, what happens?
They still have to pay it.
By
Because
whose authority?
State law, state statute.
Just like in the initial state law, they said that CTIB was going to pay $30 million. It was state law. There was no choice.
And so
that's
there
the
is
same
no
thing.
Even though we voted for the sales tax, we were created by state law. CTIB was allowed to be created by state law. And so they can govern how that funding goes.
Okay, but that sets has that precedent ever happened before?
Yes.
Which one?
It was called the
When the state
local government trust fund, when counties had to vote for a sales tax, and it went into a local government trust fund, and we got payments back from the state. When the state saw how fast the trust fund was growing, they started cutting back on how much they were giving us and started diverting the money to other things. And that's basically what they've started to do here. They've got the camel's nose under the tent, so to speak, by this is unprecedented. And if they continued to do this, it would be very hard for counties to maintain a CTIP.
But I think that's a reflection of creating sort of a back door of saying, someone else, you made the tough decision to do this for a specific purpose, and then all of a sudden, we're going to come play corporate raider. And all of this. And so I see it is a very dangerous thing, because I think it could be a chilling effect, you know, on future votes of any shape, form, or the other. Because it's like we do the heavy lifting, or whoever does the heavy lifting, and you're going to come take it. You know, and especially when it does not give any ability to say, then we stop collecting. We'll show you. Because if CTIB went away, remember, everybody could back out of it. You still are obligated for what you've already obligated for, but it would, you know. I'm just saying is it could become a wicked little...
Is it on this point? Because I have Commissioner... Okay, go ahead.
The point is that the state government created us, county government, created city government, and that's the base of where it came from. If we were to stop, and I understand what you're saying, if we decided not to collect the sales tax on all the state would turn around and do is levy it from their point. It's why we are only allowed to raise property taxes. So it's very simple for them. If you take it away, they'll put it back, but it'll be a state tax.
But they didn't have the guts to do that on their own. They put us in that position. And again, the average person out there doesn't realize that they're taking it. Commissioner, was that all? Okay. Commissioner McDonough.
I was going to talk about, I got a different thing, but I'm going to make a couple comments on this. You know, Nick used the example of the local
government trust fund.
Right, and you, part of that description, you had used the example that the fund was growing quite rapidly, so they decided to pull the money. I have to make it clear, that's not what happened here.
Yes.
The money they are taking from CTIB is actually borrowed money. It's our bonding money. We had a vote of bonding last year to make our commitments for 2012 and 2013 for Central Corridor and our other commitments. So they're not taking, I don't want anybody to think they're taking money because the pot's big. They're taking borrowed money, and they're taking projects that we had committed for 2012. Now that commitment for that money is going to get kicked down the road because we don't have the money to make those commitments, honor those commitments for those projects. So, and to Commissioner Rettman's point, I just want to, we could talk a lot about this, but I mean, one of the arguments when we testified at the legislature is there's, I think, 22 or 23 local option sales taxes in this state. And everybody who has one should be just as concerned because what they did to CTIB, they could do to any one of those organizations. And there is no, we're not going to do it. State legislature says, CTIB, you will pay $15 million to Met Council. We'll take a vote on it, but the vote doesn't matter. We're going to have to pay it because that's the law, and they've taken that money. So. But everybody has to understand that, you know, we talked earlier about the structurally unsound budget, tax, you know, borrowing, one-time money, the school shift. This is even more of an example of the unsoundness because they're actually taking borrowed money. CTIB is paying debt service on the money that they are taking to backfill Metro.
They did Metro Mosquito, too.
For 1 year.
Madam Chair, and that was my point, is that the decision was made because, and they have been at every one of those meetings that y'all have had, of saying, we want it to always fit in the Met Council plan and all of this. This wasn't a Met Council request. This was saying, okay, we're going to take it and you can just move out your projects further back and all of this, but then at some point in time you're going to have more debt to have to be able to do it.
The original, was Jan going to comment on this, or?
No.
Oh, okay. So, and I want to get to the workshop too, but you know, I want to go back to Commissioner Bennett's point because since 2003, when really all this started, even before that.
Oh, way before that.
But when the hits started coming in 03, we've always talked about if they cut it, we cut it type approach. Well, I've never seen them ever cut a program. They block and chop, or they group and butcher, or whatever you want to call it, you know. But they always make it, you know, and I think it's important for us because we're the ones that end up having to be forced to prioritize. We're the ones that actually end up making a decision on whether we do something or don't do something because the pot's smaller, but they don't give us the thread back to the state that says, we cut it, you cut it, it's gone. We're always forced to do that, and I think, you know, we've done a good job since '03, but we need to continue to do that because that's the toughest part of our budgeting job is to start prioritizing and actually saying, you know what, this one has to come off because we can't just water down everything because eventually we don't do anything very well if we water it down. So they don't make it easy, Tony, by allowing us to do, they cut it, we cut it, it's gone. They make it extremely hard for us to do because the pot's smaller, we still have to do it, and then we have to prioritize, and we have to tell people that there's going to be an impact either on how you were getting your services before or to providers that we're going to no longer use you because we have to focus over here. So I think that's the important part that, you know, we as a Ramsey County Board has done really well since '03, and it's going to get harder and harder because there's less and less room to maneuver to be able to make those points. But we should, you know, we started our process yesterday afternoon. We're going to continue it again this afternoon. And I mean, that's the tough part for us, again, is there is no direct thread back to the external forces that are making us do those cuts.
So I think if we could then, obviously throughout our budget hearings, this document and what has been passed on to us or taken away from taxpayers as far as the credits will come into that discussion. And normally we would obviously have this information a lot earlier, but it's a good overview. Obviously we will be updating and reformatting and trying to make sure that we can get the message out as clearly as possible, but that was not made easy because of the way they put their budget together. Nick?
I wonder if we have permission, Madam Chair, to use that moniker, group and butcher, when we... I like that better than chop and block.
I hope he's not using that on the duck.
Butchering the head, it gives a picture of blood.
Not of the ducks.
Yeah,
And, yes, we will continue to do our process, and I am confident that because of the way we do our process for budgeting, in the very conservative manner that we do, that we will be able to keep that AAA bond rating. But the state and the federal government are sure not helping here. And I know, and Commissioner Bennett, you've talked about this so many times, but that AAA bond rating is real dollars to each and every taxpayer. And that is so important. And for Ramsey County, we have both major rating agencies that have given us that AAA bond rating, and we've earned the top awards. I think there are 3 different awards that are provided. We are the only county in Minnesota that has all of that. Okay, thank you very much. I do have one thing that I need to update the board on, and that is regarding the Metropolitan Council. AMC District 10 has, as we all know, discussed the history, structure, and current governance of the Met Council over the past year and probably many years before that. As part of that process, AMC invited the 7 Metro County administrators to provide input. And what happened, basically the Metro administrators recommended to their respective board chairs, and the board chairs and me agreed that we would try to facilitate meetings where we had 2 commissioners from each county so that we could provide, with the administrators, to provide some input, because if there's going to be changes, they would be made next year, and so we need to provide some input. I have agreed to do that and would look to the other commissioners to let me know if you have an interest in it, because I would like to have 2 commissioners.
Is this a restructuring there, you said?
Right, and just kind of doing the
I'd like to do it.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Parker was the first to put her hand up. I know that this is an important issue to all of us, and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. There is an opportunity. That's what, at District 10, and Commissioner Ortega was there and was part of that discussion. I think others around the table have been part of that discussion as well, so that we can, if we're going to try to offer a change, we need to make sure that we're on the same page. So, 7 county administrators, the commissioners will be getting together. We'll obviously work with Julie to figure out when that will be, provide that input. So I wanted to make sure that I had another commissioner and that you knew that AMC is providing that leadership and trying to have an impact. Are there other outside board and committee reports? Okay, we have the status of Meals on Wheels in Ramsey County workshop immediately following the county board meeting. We have yes, that's downstairs in the large conference room, room 220. And we have the budget hearing this afternoon from 1 to 4:30 here in the chambers.
4:30 today, not 5 o'clock.
Correct. That's what I said, right?
Yeah, you did. I just want to make sure they heard that.
Okay. And Meals on Wheels, 10 minutes?
Okay.
Downstairs?
50.
Oh, give us some time to get downstairs and...
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you can. I mean, 5 or 10. Let's just get in there, because...
Okay. There being no further business, the county board is...